Are you sweating?
You're sweating way more than me.
I'm sweating a lot.
Oh, yeah.
Well, we're back again. I'm Lee, she's Hannah, and we are going to cover the next phase of our real estate journey. Real quick recap. In 2017, Hannah and I got started in real estate with a flip. We flipped a single family home here in Lebanon, Ohio, where we live. After that, we were like, well, that's not investing, that's just trading time for money in real estate. But we got started, so we're up to get started. But we jumped into a duplex in 2018, the next year. That was an even better experience because we didn't spend as much time on it. We got more help. We had a little cushion behind us after doing that flip and a little confidence behind us. So, and we had renters, and we saw what it's like having rental real estate and that residual income that can go on forever as long as you own the property and keep it full. So that was a better experience, but we ended up selling that because we had a lot of money in it and we saw the equity there, and I wanted to go bigger and we wanted to do more. So then in 2019, we jumped into a 16 unit. That was a huge jump for us. If you know, there was an episode, last episode we did, lot that went into that, but kind of snowballed after that. After we got the 16 unit, we got right into an 8 unit and then right into a 10 unit. So all in the fall and into winter of 2019, we did those 3 properties, and so we had 34 units. And so this episode is really about 2020, the year of COVID that everybody remembers.
Yeah,
it was a
year for everybody.
Extra crazy year for us because rolling into COVID, we had 34 units. We were repositioning all those properties. That's really what that year was about, was turning all those properties around, because those were all heavy value adds.
Right.
I mean, the 10 unit, for example, was 50% vacant. One resident moved out right when we took over, so we're 60% vacant on that. That's what we're doing in 2020, and then COVID hits.
Right.
And I mean, that upended, you know, everybody, certainly us. I mean, your situation was you know, kind of unique, and we ended up making some big changes for you that year.
Right. Yeah. No, I was practicing as a nurse in a hospital setting, an outpatient facility, doing endoscopies, and because it was outpatient.
And colonoscopies.
And colonoscopies. That's
Okay.
one to brag about, I guess.
And colonoscopies. It's both. Be honest.
Yeah, but it was outpatient, so they closed down the unit, obviously, with COVID. But when they were bringing us back a few months later, when things were opening back up, we were getting floated to random units, and it was just a bad situation. It was just clear that it was time for me to be done, and we were kind of considering that for a while. And then also the kids were brought home with COVID, so we were already kind of homeschooling them, and we kind of saw like kind of what that offered our family too. That's when the decision was officially made to just go ahead, and I was going to quit and just be home and homeschool the kids.
But also just, you know, the more threefold was kind of taken off a little bit at this point, just for us. I mean, it was just us, but you were just more involved and doing a lot. So yeah, like you said, it felt really difficult to have, for both of us to have a job and have that flexibility. So I was ready to do more multifamily, bigger multifamily. So I really started diving into syndications. You know, by this point, you know what a syndication is.
But at the time, I'm like, syndic what?
Yeah. Yeah. So it's just, I mean, you know, with the smaller multifamilies we explained on the last episode, we would just partner with one person. One of them we did 2 people. But on a smaller deal, you can just do a joint venture with 1 or 2 people. Kind of simple. If you're going to buy bigger properties, which we wanted to do, you're going to need a lot of people. And when you partner with a lot of people, you can't all be active partners. So those people that are just bringing capital to invest with you, they're passive investors, and that needs to be a syndication. And I'm not going to explain all that on this video. I think on the website we have some videos on it, right? Jump on the website.
The website for the educational videos.
Threefoldrei.com.
Apartment syndication.
Absolutely. I had so much to learn in that. So started with Joe Fairless's book, the best ever real estate syndication book. That's like a textbook. You know, this is a guy I look up to. He's here in Cincinnati. He's just crushed it, you know, for the last decade. So I was like, might as well just try to do
Right.
what he did. So
You just used it as like check your boxes.
absolutely, it's like I'll at least try it.
Yeah.
Like I'll do anything to get into this. You know, one of the big things Joe talks about is starting a podcast. So we started a podcast.
Right.
We got a website going. You know, you were again doing a lot of that stuff. You know,
The podcast though, going back to that.
Yeah.
That was like hilarious to me. Because
Yeah.
I'm like, what are you gonna talk about like on a podcast? But
yeah,
people did it, but I remember it was like such a thing. Cause I'm like to the kids, like your dad he has a podcast, and so every time you would have a guest on or you'd be recording, like I would make the kids leave, like we would go out and drive, or
Yeah.
they weren't allowed to like flush the toilets. They weren't, because it just felt like such a big deal.
it did. Yeah.
To have this podcast.
Yeah, less so today for sure.
But you had some pretty big names on it. So
Yeah,
it was really
absolutely.
exciting.
Oh, it was incredible.
I mean, tell them about the first episode.
Very first episode, you know, had a great guest and forgot to hit the record button. So got to the very end, realized it before, you know, it finished, and I said, I'm so sorry. I'm just realizing I did not record. And it was like, I mean, I really shortened them down, but to start out with, I was doing like hour-long episodes. This one was definitely like 50 minutes long.
Yeah.
He was so nice. He jumped back on the very next day and recorded again. I have not forgot to record again since then. So yeah,
Your office downstairs was just like this white wall, and then I printed off this laminated sign from Staples with your logo on it that just hung like right here.
Yeah.
It was so tacky looking
Very
back,
tacky.
but you just have to start somewhere.
Yep.
And then you kind of learn along the way, and your office is still not an office. It's like half of our laundry room.
we have the central vac right here.
Yep. So on
Yeah.
camera, it looks very nice and pretty.
It does look nice today. You've
But
done a great job.
no, it's still a laundry room.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, we just were like, let's just do the motions. I mean, at that point in the business, when you're starting something, sometimes you just take the steps. You just go through the motions.
Yeah.
Joe Fairless says, do this. It's like, okay, we'll do that. I don't know exactly what that's going to do for us. I don't know how it's going to work out. You have
Trust the process.
Yeah,
and
you do.
know that you're going to make so many mistakes along the way.
Trust the people that have gone before you. Absolutely. Be okay with making mistakes.
Yeah.
Oh, you know what we didn't talk about is the name, Threefold,
Oh yeah.
and where that came from. That was kind of a cool story.
Yeah. Well, I can just remember, like, we were sitting on the couch, just in our living room, like, throwing a bunch of ideas out there, coming up with nothing.
Yeah.
And then I reached out to just one of our church friends who's a true creative. She just threw it out there, the, threefold cord, from the Bible. And we were both like, yes,
Yeah,
that makes
it just
so
fit
much
right away.
sense. Yes, it's exactly what we wanted the company to be.
I don't think everybody needs to be super forward with their faith and their business necessarily. I don't think you need to hide from it, of course, but we just really did feel like God was calling us, for whatever reason, just to be forward with our faith. And so threefold for us, having come from the book of Ecclesiastes and, having Bible verse behind it, felt like something important and something that we just wanted to kind of lead with. For our business specifically, we just felt like God was calling us to that. The threefold cord for us, we can say it in multiple ways, but for us it was going to be us, the threefold company, and our investors, because we're starting this syndication company. We're going to have to bring these investors in now to partner with us to be able to go buy these bigger properties. But then we wanted that third cord, that third strand, to be God. We wanted to make sure we were always led by God and leaning on Him, gaining wisdom, keeping God and His will for us in that conversation. So by the fall of 2020, we kind of had gotten this stuff going, the podcast, the website, the newsletter, with Active Campaign and the email list, and I'm ready to go.
You're grooving.
I'm ready to jump in. And the 3 properties we had, 16 unit, 8 unit, and 10 unit, we were getting them turned around. And also, we had bounced off the bottom of COVID, March and April. We had, a stock market crash and real estate froze up. Well, everybody knows the Fed and the government, teamed up to print more money than the world's ever, thought possible. And things started rebounding. So by the fall and into winter, real estate prices were skyrocketing. So we realized we had a ton of equity in our properties. So I was licking my chops a bit, saw an opportunity, presented it to Hannah with a full business plan.
No thanks.
And that was to veer slightly from the plan that I set forth and sold you on initially,
Right.
which was I'm going to buy enough, we're going to buy enough rentals to provide us cash flow.
And then
to replace,
quit the W2's.
either replace my income or maybe at least cover our expenses, because my income was more than our expenses. But it's like, let's get to, and we were like maybe halfway there to covering our expenses. So I wasn't going to wait. I didn't want to wait and go get another 3 and, you know, so it's like, because of where the market went, you know, taking off, we had enough equity in those where we could sell them and get a few years worth of our expenses and just put it in our savings. So I felt like that was a fantastic opportunity to sell all 3, stick all that money in our savings, and like, here's our cushion, here's our runway. We can jump in and go full time.
Yep.
And yeah, how'd you feel about that?
It took me a bit, quite a bit.
Understandably.
I mean, because you lose all that security that I love. When we were just going to drop everything that we went to school for, that steady income is what was really hard for me to let go of. Yeah. But you redid all your graphs and tables, and you presented it all to me, practically a PowerPoint presentation of why this made sense and why, like, we were going to be okay. Yeah. You know, through it. And not to mention just the spiritual side of you just feeling that this is something that the Lord was calling you to and us to. As usual, it took me a little bit, but I pretty much just required 2 things: that the pillow itself was big enough to where that we had that cushion, that runway. Yeah. And then insurance. That was my other like biggest concern, was that we just had to have good insurance. Yeah. You know, I think another important part, I think, of what I was trying to sell you on was, what is the true worst case scenario? And sometimes you can get a little bit carried away on your worst case scenario. The true worst case scenario for us was that I go back to being a physical therapist. I mean, those jobs are going to be there. Healthcare is not going anywhere. Right. We're always going to need physical therapists. So it might not be as good of a job or what I want or whatever, but I could go back. I mean, and we didn't want you going back to work because we were doing the homeschool thing, but push come to shove, obviously RN jobs are always available. So, well, not to mention just the feeling of like we failed, where I am anti doing anything that I can fail in. And so there was just pressure there of just feeling like no one we know does this. We sound like crazy people. And now there's a high likelihood in my mind that this is all going to fall apart and we're going to fail and be crawling back to our other jobs. Yes, that's one way to look at it. I don't look at it that way, for sure. Failure is part of success. But that's important that you voice that. That was a real feeling. That's genuine. That is genuine, absolutely. I don't want our viewers to let that hold them back, but they may feel, I mean, that's a real feeling. Or they might be married to someone. They might be married to somebody. So you got to put the presentation together and, you know, drag them across the starting line and jump in. So anyway, yeah, went shopping for insurance. By God's grace, found some pretty good insurance. And then we ended up selling the property. So got 2, we sold 2, and that was already enough. So I did quit. The day that he closed, literally. The second one. He's in the parking lot and he calls his company and says, I'm putting in my 2 weeks. Like, that is how much he wanted to be done. He was like, all right, done. I think you called them before you even called me. Might have. Might have called Kevin too. I think you were like, why you called Kevin before me? I'm like, trying to put things in motion here, get it going. Yeah, and then when I got home, it was so cool because you and the kids had a little retirement party for me. And that was adorable. I mean, you guys had made a little peanut butter pie, I think, and put like, I don't know, Reese cut pieces on it or something that said like a crown. Happy retirement, and got me a Burger King crown, I think. And the kids were so excited, and that was really cool. Again, just a pinch me moment of like, I can't believe this is really happening. Of course, I wasn't retiring, but I was retiring just from being a physical therapist. At least we thought. We'll see. I still have my license in case I need to go back. Sure of that. But that was so cool. Just looking back over that time, let's go through the good, the bad, and where we saw God. For me, I mean, this was a pinch me moment that I could actually quit my W2. I mean, I've been wanting to do this for years. Going back real quick, like when I quit my corporate job in 2016 and went back to home health physical therapy, I was pretty sure I wanted to get into real estate. It was not quite a year later, 9 months later, that we started into real estate. And from that day,
I was ready to be all in and going all in on real estate. So 4 years after I, had this idea and quit and, kind of went that route, 4 years later, I'm trying to tell how long I waited because I wanted to do it early, but for you, I waited. But it had been a long time coming, and I just couldn't believe it was actually happening. I mean, I just felt spoiled by God's gift in this because this is something I had prayed for, and I just felt like He provided it even before I really thought was possible. And I mean, just because when you watch, like, it was the market, and that's stuff outside of our control. We didn't do that, but it worked out that we had started, again, by God's grace, we started at a time when, we got into some multifamily and the market took off. And that allowed us to sell them, make all this, put it all in our savings account and go all in. And so that was awesome. I mean, I still all the time can't believe that I get to do this every day.
Yeah, that's the good for me too. Seeing your spouse just really thrive in their God-given talents and abilities is really cool. And I saw glimpses of that when you were a PT, but to really see you doing something that you love and you were wired for was really, really cool. And then once you did quit, things did feel like they were slowing down. I know that's probably surprising because you were starting your own company, but things were just obviously slower because there wasn't much going on. We had sold the properties.
Yeah, it's true.
And so
for a little bit.
Yeah, you were just trying to kind of figure it all out.
Yeah.
And so it just allowed for a little more flexibility for us, a little bit more of the lifestyle that we desired and hoped for. Yeah.
So the bad, I mean, it was a struggle selling the properties. I mean, we had an incredibly difficult roof issue with our 16 unit that was just a nightmare. We got through it, still sold the property, but it was really difficult situation. So a lot of struggle, but as much as it was awesome jumping in, we did give up all of our security, and with our property specifically, selling all 3 of those, we went from 34 units to 0 units, and we went from maybe covering half of our expenses with our cash flow to covering none of our expenses with our cash flow. So that was definitely bad. When you sell your portfolio, that's what you give up.
Yeah, the security was the negative for me. I mean, how do you describe it? You're the type that jumps out of a plane and builds a parachute on the way down. That it just felt like we were doing that.
We were.
Because we had a plan, but we were starting, it felt like at square one, and coming from having the W2's and just that kind of security and not having it at all anymore was just really scary. Okay, you quit your job. Now what? Okay, you work in our basement and...
Yeah, and it was tough for me. When you're an entrepreneur, it's what's really going to move the needle? That's what you're always asking yourself. What are the things that are going to get some sales? Because, no one's paying us. I mean, we've got, mortgage, taxes, all the normal things, health insurance we're paying all of that. We don't have an employer footing the bill for half of the premium. We're paying it all, we're paying everything, and we're making nothing. We've got the savings, but it's going down every week.
Right.
Every week we're spending and we're not making anything. And it was months before we made anything. And so that's scary, but that's just what it is. That's, if you want to be an entrepreneur, if you want to take that chance, that's what you're doing. A lot of times you're starting and you're going to jump in and have nothing. And you're just building that parachute. Hopefully we start building this thing and we start catching some air here.
Right.
So then where do we see God? I'll just say this. I always tell people, I'm always trying to move faster. And you're often feeling like we're moving a little too fast, and you're more cautious, more risk adverse. But we avoid so many mistakes because of the way you are. And it's been amazing the way God has orchestrated it, because we've taken far fewer steps than I've wanted to take. I wanted to flip 10 houses. We only flipped 1. But we flipped 1 and went right to a duplex. And then, I probably would have got a couple duplexes going at the same time, but we just did 1. And you're always just well, let's recalibrate. Is this really what we want to do? What do you. And so to go from single family, duplex, 16 unit, and then boom, 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 build this multifamily portfolio, then sell them all and jump in and go full time. That's incredibly fast. And that's God's provision, the way He put us together, the way we work together. And then Him just, again, providing these opportunities, providing these relationships is incredible how it all went, that we could, get it going and get going full time as quickly as we did.
Yeah, no, I agree. You know, I was thinking in January of that year, you and I met like we always do. And
Yeah,
we
had
did
our
kind of our
kickoff and
goal
fast
setting
and stuff,
and just looking back in the past year and looking forward to the next year. And, you know, we were discussing everything that we wanted and some of our dreams, like everything was lining up, you know, what we wanted for our family, the family culture we wanted, everything was lining up perfect. It was just what I kind of learned, it was just kind of the route to get there is where you and I differed.
Yeah,
like both
yeah.
were ending in the right spot.
Right.
And I feel like the Lord just gave me this kind of mental picture one day in January while I'm driving of just like this boat that's like sailing off into the sunset, which is our dreams, and we both want to end up at the same spot. But I'm like still on shore, just like holding in, like heels dug in, holding the rope, not letting this boat sail off.
And the kids and I are on the boat.
I'll say the kids are with me, but
okay, you're holding them back too. Okay, got it.
But you're on the boat and you're trying, and the Lord was just, Hannah, get on the boat. Can you imagine what you can do if you both are in this together and what I have in store for the both of you? And it was humbling of, all right, I need to let go of some things and get on the boat.
Yeah.
And so, and the boat being,
hard, yeah.
you know, us kind of doing real estate in this new life.
And that's a good picture, because that's what we feel like God is calling us to, is to get in that boat and go and just not know. It's just go.
Just be obedient.
And that's kind of what we've tried to do.
Yeah, sometimes it is just about the obedience, and that's what we're trying to do now.
I guess the next episode will be when we started syndicating. So in 2021, sneak peek, we did get our first syndication and got the syndication business going. So we'll jump into that story in the next episode.
All right. See you then.